Hey there, everybody. Welcome to another episode of WQ Roundtable. This is episode 38. We've got a great guest on the show today we're going to learn a lot about. We're going to introduce ourselves first. I'm Kyle Maurer with Real Big Marketing in Jackson, Michigan. And over here, right below me, down south a little bit, is Mr. Rich. Take it away.
Hey, it's Rich Robinkoff. I'm a freelance web developer and a web development educator in Northeast Ohio in the Cleveland area. Let's pass it over to Kellen.
All right. Good evening, everybody. My name is Kellen Mace. Happy to be on tonight with a very cool guest. Yes, I went there. I'm a developer. I'm a freelance developer as well. I'm on the east side of Michigan. My URL's below if you need some work done.
All right.
All right.
So our guest today is Mr. Ben Cool. He is a developer, works over at a cool company nearby called A2 Hosting, based out of Ann Arbor, a web hosting company. They do a lot of great stuff. So Ben, why don't you tell us just a little bit about who you are and introduce yourself to everyone.
Hi everyone, my name is Ben Cool. I work for A2 Hosting. I'm the application optimizer here at A2 Hosting. Basically my job is to make people's websites faster, easier to use. We do a lot of concentration on WordPress. We do other CMSs as well, Magento, Drupal, Joomla, but a lot of concentration on WordPress because there just happens to be the biggest user base of WordPress, so we try to concentrate as much effort as possible on that. So before A2 Hosting, I ran my own company for about 8 years with a couple business partners. We did car classifieds online, a couple websites, gtcarlot.com, dealerrevs.com. Before that, I worked for the Eastern Michigan University linguist list, where I did my graduate work at Eastern to get my master's in computer science.
Thanks, Ben. So that's a good intro. We're going to get to know a lot more about you here in a few, because we've got a lot of questions for you. But first I want to start off with the picks of the week. Rich, why don't you start us off?
Oh, muted, Rich.
Sorry about that. Forgot to hit the button. All right, I got a good one for you this week. It's updateyourfooter.com. It's the new year, and pet peeve of mine, and for a lot of people, is the bottom of your website. Typically, you have your copyright and it has a year in there. Well, if you didn't remember to go in and change it, it means it's manually set. Well, instead of worrying about that, updateyourfooter.com has a couple of snippets for JavaScript and PHP. PHP, obviously, for WordPress. And it comes in really handy and will dynamically update your copyright year, and it gives you a couple of code snippets, and it's just a really good tool. Share it with people you know. It's you can put it in a child theme. It just works real nice. It's a quick little thing at the beginning of the year that you don't have to think about. All right, Kellen.
All right, cool. I'll dive in next. My pick of the week. It's pretty simple. Typically, for version control and collaborating with others, I use GitHub. You know, super popular service, of course, online. But recently, I had to do a project where I needed a private repository and just to work on something proprietary with one other developer. And you know, GitHub, of course, has paid packages where you can have private repos. But I learned I haven't really used Bitbucket in the past, but it turns out they have it's free for up to 5 users for private repositories on Bitbucket, and you can push your Git commits to it just as you would with GitHub. So yeah, I've been using Bitbucket a little bit just for this one project in particular that I needed to be private, and it's free and it's awesome. That's what I got.
Awesome. So thanks, you guys. I'm going to pass it to Ben after me, but I've got just a quick pick of the week, and it's not a very typical pick, but it's just something I wanted to point out because it just happened that a dearly loved member of the WordPress community passed away over the weekend. Her name was Kim Parcell. She was a resident in Ohio. She was a WordPress developer and big active community member, especially contributed to the docs team. She was affectionately known in the community as WP Mom. Kim was a really, really nice person that I enjoyed talking with and met a couple times in WordCamps, and she really touched a lot of lives in this community, so she will be sorely missed. You can read about her on WP Tavern and on a few other sites where people have blogged about in tribute to her. So our thoughts and prayers are with her family at this time, and I just wanted to share that so that everybody can be thinking about them and reading about Kim and appreciating her legacy. So thanks. Ben?
All right, so I have a pick of the week. It's WP Symposium had a arbitrary file upload vulnerability that looks like they've patched as of December 30th. But anyone that has WP Symposium, which has about 150,000 users, should update that plugin as soon as possible.
Thanks, Ben. It's always good to know about that kind of stuff. Is there any place online that we can, find a reference or a link or a write-up on anything like that? How'd you find out about it?
If you just Google in the news for WP Symposium, you'll find it. I was just looking for things in the news about WordPress and vulnerabilities today and saw it. I think the vulnerability's been out there for about a month, so it's out in the wild, and people need to update if they're using that.
Good. Okay. All right, so the world wants to know more about you, Ben. There's not a lot to be found about Ben Cool on the web at this time, so we've got a lot of questions. We've got to figure out who you are, what you've been up to, and where you're going. So let's start at the beginning. When you were a kid, what did you want to be when you grew up?
I think I started out like a lot of people wanting to be an astronaut, and that doesn't work out for everybody. And then I wanted to be a doctor because I wanted to be Dr. Cool. Still want to become a doctor, but probably not a medical doctor. So that's what I wanted to do. Be a doctor.
That's cool.
So tell us about, you talked a little bit about what you've done before, kind of in reverse order, but talk a little bit about your pathway to where you are now in as much detail as you want to, especially with the steps that led you to decide you wanted to get into the web, and then later the steps that you wanted to get into things like WordPress and relating to what we do.
Yeah, so my first experiences with doing the web, I was in high school, and I like to make websites using JavaScript and things like Dreamweaver and Fireworks. For a while I did that in high school, started my own company that failed, and so I sort of stopped doing web development for a few years. Went to computer science, program at Eastern, and learned the fundamentals of computer science, and then started web programming again near the end of my bachelor program there, probably about 2005. I started doing web programming again, and really liked using PHP and doing database administration, writing my own CMSs, using JavaScript, things like the YUI, EXT, written by Jack Slocum, and then started, making a search engine one day, just because I thought it would be cool. We thought we'd be the next Google. Kind of funny in hindsight, but that actually started my company where we did the car websites and did that for about 7 years. And so I've been working on my own, doing my own projects for so many years. Now it's pretty interesting being able to see. I get to work on a lot of websites now, working at A2 Hosting, and I get to see how people are using WordPress, and it's pretty impressive.
That is interesting. So we talked about this before, and it's interesting that you were building, that you were starting everything from scratch and building your own custom CMSs. I never got that far. I definitely was using doing things from scratch before I discovered WordPress, but just static HTML websites or PHP-based websites. But to develop your own custom CMS just sounds like such a daunting task. But I suppose I'm looking at it from this backwards perspective of we have this advanced, highly sophisticated CMS now, and for me to try and to just think of inventing something that's functional of my own sounds impossible.
Yeah. Well, when I first started making CMSs, I think WordPress was in 2.5 maybe, and some people had mentioned WordPress, and in my hoity-toity computer sciencey mind, I kind of just brushed it off using, that's for blog software, and of course I was wrong. In hindsight, that so many people were using WordPress for things that were not blogs. I'd made a local newspaper website, the Ypsilanti Citizen, and made a whole CMS for that, categories and backend for them to manage it all, and users, and it would have been so much easier to have just spawned up a WordPress site, made categories, and been done.
I can imagine. I can imagine. So you built up your skills. You ran a company for 7 years with some partners. You said car classifieds, stuff like that. And then at some point, you transitioned into a job at A2 Hosting. How did that transition come about?
Well, I have a few friends that work at A2 Hosting. I've hosted my own stuff at A2 Hosting for a few years now. My company has a few dedicated servers here, and I happen to go to the same brew pub as some of the guys that worked at A2 Hosting, and so we became friends, and I was just looking for something different and noticed that A2 Hosting had a job opening that looked like it was right up my alley of application optimizer, because most of my efforts at my own company was trying to make my websites as fast as possible. So I applied for the job and got it. And here we are today, about 9 months later. So.
Can you tell us a little bit about your specific responsibilities as an application optimizer? What kind of things do you do, and what skills that you developed are you leveraging, and what's your day-to-day job look like?
My day-to-day job is, go over the types of websites that users are using and figure out ways to make it either easier to use or speed up people's websites. So we saw WordPress as sort of the low-hanging fruit because we could make a plugin for WordPress fairly easily, and there's so many plugins out there that allow people to customize WordPress, and W3 Total Cache is already out there that can speed up someone's website through caching. So instead of making our own version of W3 Total Cache, why not just make a plugin that installs it for the customer and configures it for the servers at A2 Hosting, which is what the A2 Optimize plugin does, which is currently only available to A2 Hosting customers, but soon it should be out in the wild. I also have been working on Memcached and configuring that for our shared hosting customers to be able to use. I also do benchmarking on our servers to make sure that they're, at least give a guideline for where the company should be going, and are our current servers fast enough, or are the websites fast enough? Give some data for the marketing company or marketing guys.
So Ben, I have a question for you. Do you guys, well, you specifically, is your job really support-driven directly? Like, are you answering tickets and stuff and addressing things at that level, or yours is kind of, you hear some of the speed issues that are happening across, the network, across servers, etc., and you try to hit the most, most common ones?
Actually, people in support will ping me for speed issues on sites. I even have my own status in the support queue that people can put tickets into that I can look at. We have a chat system that I can immediately get. If someone's on the phone, I can give immediate input on someone's website and find a problem with it. So we get to see how people are using it. We developed the plugin and we put it out there, and now we get people's feedback on whether it's working or not. And generally, people are very happy with having a plugin that will automatically configure caching and security for them.
Yeah, that's very cool. How about, can you tell us why A2 hosting? Do you have kind of an abridged version of a sales pitch, I guess? Like what makes A2 a good choice?
A2 hosting looks at the customer's perspective. It's very, very easy to say, okay, we've got servers here, we can host websites, but A2 hosting is trying to make an effort to do the things that other hosting companies are not doing. Our support staff, generally, we try to handpick them a little more than other companies. When you get someone on the phone at A2 hosting, generally, you're not going to get someone who has no idea what they're doing and has to put in a support ticket in order to get anything resolved. You're generally going to get someone who can hopefully help you with your issue. Speed, A2 hosting, our speed, your success. We're all about speed as well, which helps with Google rankings and things like that.
Yeah, most definitely. How about for the future of A2? You mentioned the caching plugin you're working on being released into the wild. What else? What other kind of big picture predictions do you have for the future at A2?
We're trying to make tools so that people at different levels of using WordPress can have an easier time setting up their website. We're trying to target maybe even people who need dedicated servers that can run WordPress and more advanced features in WordPress, and try to focus on making the transition of creating a WordPress site easier for a customer.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. It's really awesome to see. Like, I just look around at the hosting space today, and I think that there's like this awesome new levels of innovation in hosting, and hosting companies just like all working hard to deliver a quality of service and product that just wasn't there a few years ago. And especially for those of us on WordPress, beginning to kind of roll out the red carpet a little bit more for these WordPress users who are kind of dominating the industry. And service providers like us, or people building these WordPress sites, it's all of a sudden coming to a point where the host becomes an asset and not something else, not something negative. And I do remember a time where I didn't look so favorably upon my hosting providers that I got to partner with, and there were more that I could look that I considered the bane of my existence than I consider assets to my business. So, I mean, that's my just little soapbox or pedestal or whatever, but I think that what you guys are doing at A2 is a great example of, setting the bar for the industry. That's not really a question, I guess. But I guess I'd be curious to see what your take is on that, because I don't know how long you've been interacting with hosting providers or anything, but you see big hosting companies making significant changes. You see WordPress-specific hosting popping up as a new sub-industry. You see changes at your own company with new emphasis being placed in different areas and innovation being emphasized. And what do you take about? What is your take on the whole hosting space today?
Well, I started interacting with hosting companies probably about 2005, and I've had quite a few hosting companies that have gone through. I was with GoDaddy for a long time until just the simplest problems where you're like, okay, I know it's a network cable. Can you please look at it? And it takes them a month to come back. And so in the meantime, you're finding a new hosting company. By the time they fix the problem, you've moved on. And I don't mean to bash GoDaddy out there. They're doing a good job out there. But A2 Hosting stepped up and took the place, and I've had virtually zero problems with A2 Hosting, and a response time or even a response about problems with my own servers that I thought it was the perfect environment for me to go work at. You know, go put my my work towards A2 Hosting. I feel it's something worthwhile because I think they're not going anywhere. A2 Hosting is going to be around and is hopefully going to be the industry leader in not only WordPress but in hosting, hopefully.
Hey Ben, I know there's you kind of mentioned about hosting companies. We kind of are having a little bit of fun there. What about getting out in the community? I mean, we know developers. What about actually getting out in the community and just interacting? I know you were there at WordCamp Ann Arbor. What else is A2 and what else are you doing as far as interacting with the community directly?
Well, A2 Hosting was a sponsor of the Ann Arbor WordCamp. We went to the San Francisco WordCamp. Me and one other person from the company went out there just to try to get a feel for what WordCamps were all about. And we're going to be putting a lot more effort into sponsoring events like WordCamps. We do server space for nonprofits. And things like Girl Develop It is one thing. We're a sponsor of Girl Develop It Ann Arbor. We give them a server to work with here. And I'm hoping that we can do quite a bit with the community over the next year. The next year, I think, is going to be big for our community involvement, not just making plugins or making sites faster, but I would like to have some contributor day type things that maybe we could get together and sponsor, where people do core programming to learn how to program for WordPress core or learn how to do the documentation for WordPress.
I think that's really interesting that you talked about that, and I'm glad we're talking about that. So what's the, you talk about what you want to make happen.
Mm-hmm.
You believe that you're going to be able to make things happen here at A2. You've got support from the company that contributing to this open source project and to this community is valuable and worthwhile.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, we've had quite a few discussions about what are we going to do to get into the WordPress community. So whatever we can do to get into the community, whatever will help, we will, if anyone has any suggestions for what we can do, we would gladly take them. But right now, tomorrow I'll be speaking at the Jackson meetup, so we'll be speaking at a lot of meetups, hopefully. I do attend the Ann Arbor help sessions. I've done 2 of those now. Hopefully we'll be doing a lot more events like that, and hopefully it won't just be me going to those events, that other people in the company will also be getting involved.
Did you say it was at the Ann Arbor meetup? Is that what that was?
Yes, the Ann Arbor meetup help session.
Gotcha.
So on that note, tell me what you think about the 5 for the future concept, Ben. What are your thoughts on that personally? What's the company's take there?
When I saw Matt Mullenweg bring that up at the State of the Word, I thought it was great. And Brian, our CEO, is all about it. So we're going to try to do whatever we can to do our 5 for the future, because it makes sense, because so many of our clients use WordPress. Why wouldn't we go out there and try to help the community for WordPress? It's a win-win situation.
It is interesting, and it's a growing thing. I think it's interesting to me to hear how companies that, as you said, WordPress users represent a segment of your customer base, notably a large segment, but not 100% of your customer base. So, Five for the Future sounds to me, as I understand it, is like for those of us like, using WordPress fully as a part of our business, WordPress completely 100% businesses, giving back 5% of your time or resources towards this project is a great way to sustain this ecosystem. But for a company like A2 Hosting, where it's a segment of your customer base, then the Five for the Future is just an even bigger contribution, I think, and it's very cool to hear something like that. So you say you're going to be speaking in more meetups, you're going to be speaking at WordPress camps, participating in the community. Are there other ways that you're looking specifically to get involved?
Just documenting, hopefully getting more people involved in the community, contributing to core. I would love to start doing bug fixes for core, even in my spare time. That sounds like a great thing for me to get into doing. And as I mentioned, hopefully getting together some contributor day type events and trying to get other people involved in how to program for WordPress or help core get better.
That's awesome. It is one of those things that I look at it and say that we all stand to benefit. Everybody does. And building a better WordPress, a more secure WordPress, a more user-friendly WordPress, all of us benefit, I think. The hosting companies, the service providers, the contractors, the developers, and most importantly, the end users and the customers. So win-win for everybody. So you are a programmer by trade. You've got a computer science degree. You write a lot of code. I want to know more about some of the coding projects that you get involved in. What languages are you writing in? What kind of software are you creating, and who are you collaborating with? And what do these projects look like that you're getting down and dirty with?
Well, lately I've been doing a lot of PHP programming, and I've been working a lot with cPanel stuff, integrating some things into cPanel. I've been doing PHP for such a long time. Other languages seem near foreign to me. I do a lot of JavaScript as well, but mainly PHP. I've worked with Perl. I've worked with Ruby. Java, I studied in school for years. I don't want to look at it ever again. So yeah, cPanel. So we've got a product that's in beta right now for Memcached to have it auto-configure CMSs like WordPress, Joomla, PrestaShop, Drupal, to use Memcached to make them faster, just to try to make every layer of the application go faster, use less resources, which helps in a shared environment. To have sites using less resources definitely is a win-win situation for the host and the client.
So real quick, Ben, can you give us a summary on, you're referring to it as Memcached. I've also heard Memcached, where people just kind of tack the D on the end. I don't know which is correct, but anyways, the bottom line is you're loading more of the data into the RAM, right?
Yes.
At the server level, and then it's quicker to load.
Generally, with Memcached, it is Memcached. The D stands for daemon, so it is a Memcache server running as a daemon.
I'll remember that. Memcached.
And then you need things like Memcache to PHP memcache in order to connect to it,
Okay.
which like W3 Total Cache will use memcached to store database objects. So you've done that query, get me all the users on my WordPress site. You don't need to do that 3 more times in the same page load. So put that into RAM, and it'll access it from RAM, which reduces the number of calls to the database and the amount of PHP code being executed.
How far can you take that? I wonder. At what point does it become ridiculous? Could you just like pull everything out of the database and that the user would possibly want access to within a session or something?
Yeah, you could. You could do everything. So you're logged in as the admin, and for the next 30 seconds, why not cache every single database call that you're going to do?
Wow.
For the next 5 page loads, as long as you haven't updated anything, why do you have to redo that query?
Yeah.
Twitter uses it a lot. They have their own proxy servers. So how does Twitter serve up so many pages within a second? They have memcached servers everywhere.
Huh.
And it allows for, at every level to be able to speed things up. You can have 30 servers all accessing shared memory using memcached.
Yeah, and I see, just looking at your background, I know you have Apache listed, right, for servers. What about Nginx? When talking about speed, I hear a lot of Nginx these days. What's the deal?
At my company, we use Nginx servers.
Okay.
The web server is Nginx. It's very fast. Currently, our web hosting, we just launched our Turbo product, which is not Apache, and it's much faster. So we're, if anyone asks, it's Lightspeed web server that we're running there. But we have our own configuration of that we call Turbo, because it serves up static files faster than any other web server that we've found, even faster than Nginx. And it runs its own version of PHP, which is faster.
What about one last question for you on speed? One of our former guests we've had on the show, or previous guests, Topher DeRoja, I don't know if you know that name. Developer here from in-state. He gives a great presentation on optimizing performance, because he was, his former company was just a huge multi-site install with tons and tons of hits, and they were trying to optimize it as much as possible. So his 3 recommendations were, Nginx and memcached that we've already discussed. The third one, though, that he during this presentation that he says for him at least made the greatest reduction in page load times for his 200 or so sites was alternative PHP cache. Right? He says it stores the compiled version of the executed PHP instead of executing the PHP every single time the page loads.
Yes, APC. That is also running on our Turbo servers.
Cool. You got the whole gamut.
The whole shebang on the Turbo servers. And the memcached is in beta right now, but it should be out soon enough. I'm hoping within a month that'll be offered as a product, maybe 2.
Very cool. So in your role, are there more senior developers even than yourself? If you're running into these kind of more obscure, I don't know, server issues, something that maybe you haven't delved into that deeply in the past, who do you go to?
Well, I am a programmer here. We have system engineers that know, the operating system stuff, server stuff, way better than I do.
Gotcha.
The guys that are on call, if a server goes down, those are the guys that get called. And yeah, I would consider them well above myself technically, as far as those things go. But as far as programming goes, I'm
You're
programming.
on top of it. That's sweet. Cool. Thanks.
That's really interesting stuff, man. I'm curious about a lot of things like this. Like, there seems to be some innovation going on, and server optimization space, and lots of new things coming up, like, although I don't know much about it because it's beyond my area of expertise, but certainly within my area of interest. Things like HHVM, have you followed that?
Hip Hop VM by Facebook, yeah.
Right.
That's really fast PHP, or you can run Hack on it, which is their own language that they developed over there to run on Hip Hop VM. Just-in-time compiling is what it does. So instead of compiling the whole PHP program before executing it, it compiles it on the fly like JavaScript does, which makes it much, much faster. When you're running things like APC, though, which will cache the compiled version of a PHP page, you're pretty much going to be the same, or if not faster, than Hip Hop VM. And the Hip Hop VM is a little buggy at the moment. It's not out in full non-beta release. They're still trying to work out a few of the bugs.
It certainly is pretty interesting, though, to see where it's going. All of this. I watched Mark Jacobs' WordCamp Europe presentation at this past WordCamp Europe. I watched it on WPTV. I was not fortunate enough to travel there this time, but the next generation hosting stack was the presentation, and I found it very interesting, talking about some of these kinds of things that, like the potential for levels of performance that we just hadn't even thought of, or we just, most of us lay people don't even think are possible at this point. It's very exciting that we're going in a positive direction. There's a lot of good innovation going on now.
Yeah.
So I'm very interested in what you are exploring and what A2 is exploring, in as far as innovation and finding creative ways to just do more, to make it better, to make it faster, and just innovate. That's always interesting.
Well, a lot of the things that we're going to try to work on over the next year is just making it easier to integrate things into WordPress. Make it easy to set up Memcached, make it easy to set up, turn on APC with our turbo servers, and make it easy to turn on things like two-factor security, CAPTCHAs, things like that are sort of necessary for your WordPress site, but aren't the simplest thing to set up if you're a newbie, as well as some more advanced tools like Memcached for people with dedicated servers, multiple Memcached instances. Just make it easy for people to be able to just flip a switch, have it on. No configuration needed.
Hey Ben, I'm going to take you in a little different direction here. I was looking at your background, and I see something about artificial intelligence.
Yes.
That's a little different than WordPress. What's your background there?
I have a graduate certificate in artificial intelligence from Eastern, which just fell out of me getting my master's in computer science at Eastern. 12 of my credit hours for my master's just happened to earn a certificate in AI. But that is for specific classes just dealing in artificial intelligence. I think I have more than that. I think almost every class I took for my master's was artificial intelligence based, and parallel programming. Yeah, one of my classes was we built a robot out of an F-150 Power Wheels, and which had a camera on it and could navigate around campus. Search engine algorithms, things like that. And a lot of the things that I think of to make things faster comes out of the AI perspective, because in AI, even though memory is now cheap and hard drive space is cheap, CPU power is cheap, those things take a lot of processing power and a lot of memory, and so you still have to think of imaginative ways to use less CPU power, less memory in order to get that task completed.
So in its own way, it actually does play into a lot of what you do day to day now.
It does. I don't use AI in what I do, but a lot of the concepts that you use for AI, I'm hoping that I will be able to implement in what I do every day here.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's super cool.
Are you, Ben, what stage are you at currently with building a robot to replace yourself so that you can, go to the beach all day, whatever, and your job will be done for you? How's that going?
Yeah. That actually, when I ran my own company, my job I always considered was to replace myself, programming enough systems in order to make it so that I didn't have to be there anymore. And
That's
right
awesome.
now, in fact, I don't have to be there anymore. The company is still going. I'm not there. It runs without me for the most part. I mean, every once in a while it needs some maintenance, but
it's awesome.
Yeah.
So Ben, what do you do for fun?
I've got 2 daughters. I like to hang out with them. I go to the Corner Brewery in Ypsilanti, Michigan. Like to drink some craft beers, which I understand, Kyle, you know a little bit about. That's pretty much it. I don't have time to work on things like robotics that I would love to be able to work on in my free time. So generally, I spend a lot of time with my family.
Was that a big shift when you started with A2 as far as the whole work-life balance? Was that a big change for you and your family?
No, in fact, it got better. Not working for myself, I can more easily separate work life from home life, which was very difficult to do when you work for yourself. Now I can be like, okay, I'm off the clock. It's still difficult, but it seems a little easier to me.
So what are some examples of things that you would like to see yourself doing more of in the future? You could say personally and professionally as well.
Sorry, I missed the question. Sorry.
Oh, okay. What are some examples of some things that you would like to be doing more of in the future as time goes on, personally and professionally?
Things that I would like to be doing more of. Well, I would like to be programming my WordPress plugin again. That's something that I would like to be working on professionally at the moment. A few other projects are taking precedence. But eventually, sometime, hopefully this quarter, I'll be able to work on that a lot more. Personally, robotics, of course. This year we're going to go to Disney with kids. That'll be fun. Yeah.
That's great. That's where my business partner is right now. It's for the first time, and that just looks amazing.
The happiest place on earth.
Yeah. All right. So that's what you want to do in the future. That's pretty cool. I hope that that works out. So looking at all the projects that you're actively involved in and the things you guys are working on, what are the ones that you're just like the most excited about?
This Memcached thing that I've been working on, I am really excited about rolling that out. I'm not sure how many people are going to take us up on it, on using it, but it's pretty cool. Getting into programming WordPress core or this WordPress plugin also gets me really excited. Very fun thing to work on, to be able to just create something from scratch that no one has done before.
When you say something like that is really cool, you're talking about like you're just really thrilled with like the benchmarks that you're getting, or it's just
the creation of it from scratch. So the Memcached thing, it's literally going to be you click a button, say this is where my WordPress site is, and it will turn on memcached for you and automatically install all the plugins you need, turn on all the buttons, and so you don't have to know a thing about what memcached is or how it works. You'll just know that your site is a little faster after you've turned it on.
Well, that's cool. That's really cool. That's like a really great area of innovation now that I like the thought of. Just let's make this stuff easier. These advancements that are being made and these better, more powerful, faster features that are available, make it so that anybody can actually use them.
Yeah.
So
Ben, after maybe a trial period or whatever else, if things go well with implementing that, would A2 consider having it as the default? Maybe if somebody comes to you, for hosting and is setting up from scratch, you would say, hey, this is our base product, which includes the speed optimization feature, and just pitch it as this is the standard. You know what I mean?
Well, when it comes to things like memcached, sometimes those things can create more problems than for some setups.
Okay.
So I'm not sure if we're going to do things by default, and I'm not sure it's going to be. I'm not sure how people are going to use it yet to know whether we just turn it on by default. That is an interesting concept, though. We have talked about WordPress only servers and WordPress only hosting as a thing that might be out there, but we realize a lot of people also, developers might work in 3 CMSs, so having an account that is just WordPress might not work for them. And that's the sort of clientele that we've been seeing, that someone might have 5 sites on their account. That not all of them are WordPress.
Gotcha.
It's really interesting. All right, so just that we're winding down on our time here already, so it's just flying by. But we've got just a couple other final questions that we were curious about. Little questions like if you had to use another CMS besides WordPress, what would you use?
Oh, I would develop my own. Other than WordPress, from what I've used of others, I've heard great things about Drupal. I've heard things, not so great things about things like Magento and PrestaShop. So maybe if I had to choose a CMS that was out there, maybe Drupal. That's a big maybe, though.
Sure. So what are some really cool plugins, examples of plugins that you love, but we might not know about?
Let's see here. I know you guys already know about the P3 profiler. That was mentioned on a previous episode. Let's see. EWWW Image Optimizer will compress your images. Let's see here. Google reCAPTCHA is a great thing to have. GT Metrics will help you find performance flaws in your site. Let's see here. W3 Total Cache has a new relic built in that will help you also find performance issues with your site, even database calls that are going on that might be slow.
Hey, Ben, can I cut in for 1 sec? Just a quick question I have for you.
Mm-hmm.
Some clients that I worked with in the past who wanted, to get a little more in terms of speed. I've tried implementing Total Cache or Super Cache, right? Either of those, and run into issues sometimes. And you'd probably be, the great guy to ask about this. Run into issues with, in WordPress where even something as simple as just creating a new blog post and hitting, publish, they don't see it right away.
Right.
And it's, myself, I can go to the back end, clear the cache and do a hard reset, and okay, now it's there. But for the client, it's caused, in some cases, caused more frustration than it was worth. I ended up turning it off,
I would guess that the browser cache in W3 Total Cache or WP Super Cache is getting in the way there, where they'd have to do a shift refresh on the page. Yeah, that does become an issue when you're using the caching plugins. Just trying to set up the cache purge on W3 Total Cache, I know can be a daunting task to check all the boxes there and say that I want it to purge cache when I do this, and this is the cache that should be purged. A lot of people, I think, get turned away with the number of options you have to set up, which is why we made our plugin that will just click all those boxes for you.
Figure it for you. That's great.
Nice.
That's cool.
All right, Ben. So, what are, who are some people in the WordPress community who really inspire you?
People in the WordPress community that inspire me. Well, Frederick Towns. I had the pleasure of speaking with him in after we made our plugin. We just reached out to him to see what his thoughts were on it, and he actually commended us on actually reaching out for him, because apparently hosting companies don't generally talk to him. Let's see. I'm so new to the WordPress community
Well, who's one person you'd like to meet?
Who's one person in the WordPress community that I would like to meet? Well, I did get to exchange a few words with Matt Mullenweg at the lunch line at WordPress San Francisco. So I'd actually like to have a real conversation with him.
Do you have any good suggestions for people that we could ask to be on the show?
Let's see. Brennan Byrne of Clef is a cool guy. Let's see here. Let's see. Mark Benzakian from ServerPress.
Just confirmed him today.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Matt Mullenweg. Say that.
For sure.
Yeah, I haven't booked somebody for episode 50 yet, so I'm gonna get somebody good for that milestone episode.
Cool.
Yeah. All right. So, aside from that, I want to know, Ben, what's on your schedule? Where can people bump into you in person, in the real world, in the flesh? Meet Ben Cool, in the near future, or where do you plan on being present for the rest of 2015?
There's not actually a whole lot planned at the moment. I will definitely be at WordCamp Ann Arbor, if there is a WordCamp Ann Arbor. Hopefully I'll be at a lot of the meetups, or a lot of the WordCamps in the Midwest. We're looking at hopefully getting a sponsorship, a larger sponsorship for WordCamps this year. Hopefully I'll be able to speak at a few places this year. But nothing on the books yet, except for the Jackson WordPress meetup tomorrow and the Ann Arbor meetup on the 28th.
That's awesome. It's going to be good to see you tomorrow, and the Jackson group is excited to have a great guest speaker talk about hosting a WordPress website. All right. So that about wraps it up for us today. Is there anything that we didn't get to cover? Any questions we didn't ask Ben that you wanted to talk about? Nope. All right. Well, that'll do it. Thanks so much, Ben, for coming on the show. We really appreciate taking your evening to spend it with us. And
yeah, thanks a lot, Ben.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Great to have you
Thanks,
on.
Ben.
yeah. So we hope to talk to you again. I know probably all of us here will bump into you at some time over the course of this year, as we're all in the Midwest and we all have an affinity for WordCamps and meetups. So you'll see us all in the flesh. But for now, have a good night. I know I'll see you tomorrow, and it's going to be a good day. So thanks again for coming on, and we'll talk to you later.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Ben.
Cool. Thanks, Ben. See ya.